It happened to be a day where I could be fully committed to responding to posts and not having anything else go on. Like it was just a full like launch day. I could do my business and fully work on my business. So that is what I would suggest, is to pick, and I responded to every single comment, like every single comment. I liked it. I responded to it, because that in itself will boost your post back up to the top, is to like and respond. Even if other people are still like not commenting on there, if you respond to it, it goes back up to the top. And it also shows how many people have commented, and it counts your comments too. And then people are like, oh my God, there's 50 something comments on this. Like, what is all this about? So constantly building hype and then thanking people for their support or thanking them for nice comments and stuff. I think that's missed a lot when people launch.
Welcome to the Web Design Business Podcast with your host, Josh Hall, helping you build a web design business that gives you freedom and a lifestyle you love.
Hello, my web designer friend. It's so good to have you here. In this episode, we're going to dive into a proven launch plan for launching a web design business. And for those of you who are more established, or you're an agency owner who has a business that is mature, don't think that this episode is not for you, because everything we cover here for an early stager who's launching their business can also be repurposed and mimicked for somebody who wants to do a marketing push or a revenue boost. So this episode really is going to apply for anyone, no matter where you are in your web design journey. But my guest in this one, Alexia Lynn, had perhaps one of the best, it is literally the best launch plan I've ever seen somebody roll out for their design business. It's funny because earlier this year in 2024, I released a YouTube video sharing how I use Circle to build my community Web Designer Pro. And I got a comment from somebody named Alexia who said they loved it and has been eyeing Web Designer Pro, that they were a designer wanting to start their business. Shortly after that, she joined my community, and I literally got to see her step by step roll out this launch plan. And I did not anticipate how organized she would be and how incredible she did in actually doing this. But here's the catch, and here's the most important thing. Alexia came out of the gate and got 3 new clients in the first 2 weeks of her business. And as you'll hear in this episode, we really get into everything she did in order to get that immediate success, and also the problems that came after that, because now suddenly she's managing a lot of projects while still in promotion mode. But she's done an incredible job in this first phase of her business. And I'm so excited for you to learn from her. Again, whether you're an early stage web designer or you're more established in your business and you want a revenue boost. So I'm going to turn it over to Alexia here. Check her out at visualvibedesign.com. And if you're thinking, man, this launch plan sounds great, I would love to just have this as a checklist, you are in luck, my friend, because she has made that available for you. You can go to her website at visualvibedesign.com/resources. And at the bottom there, she has this launch plan available for you. We will have it linked to the show notes for this episode at joshhall.co/350 as well. Again, Alexia is a member of my Web Designer Pro community. She's actually going to be presenting on this in November of 2024. So if you're catching this before that, make sure you join Pro if you've been on the fence, because you can actually see Alexia's live training on how she did this. She'll break it down in more detail, followed by a live Q&A as well. So you can meet Alexia and be a part of this incredible community. So can't wait to help you in your web design business. Here's Alexia. Let's talk about the launch plan that got her 3 new clients in the first 2 weeks of business. Alexia, it is so good to have you officially on the podcast. It's funny because it was earlier this year when you dropped a comment on my YouTube channel for one of the videos, I think. And, it was on YouTube, but you dropped a comment and we got to know each other a little bit. You joined Web Designer Pro, and 8 months later, you're on the podcast. So it's an honor to see your journey progress so quickly. Welcome on.
Yeah, thank you. It's so awesome. Like, this is so exciting, just being on the podcast of like one of my mentors. It's just like, it's amazing. So I'm just so happy.
Well, I'm really excited to dig into specifically your launch. I told you this inside of Pro, but I got to say it publicly. I don't think anyone has crafted a more robust and in-depth launch plan that is literally like a proven plan that works for people. I mean, you came out of the gate. It's funny because you kind of went quiet, and that happens when people join Pro. You go through courses, you're implementing, and then it was like Alexia version 1 that came in. Then a couple months later, it was like Alexia version 2.0. You had photo shoot, you had like social media set up, your website was beautiful. We nailed in reeled in your services, and you really came out of the gate hot. And let's just call it out up front. Was it 3 clients in 2 weeks when you launched?
Yes,
Is that right?
It was 3 in 2 weeks. And it was a lot more than I was expecting. I was expecting like nothing, you know what I mean? Because when you launch a business and you have, the hype for it and everything, you start it and you kind of like, oh, I'll have time to like do all my social media. Like it'll be a slow period, but it was not, which is a great thing. Love my clients. So super excited that happened to me, but I would still feel like I'm playing catch up, especially with the social media game of like getting content, working on clients, building my business all in one. Cause I was kind of expecting it to be a little bit slower, but I'm glad it happened the way it did. Cause it gave me the motivation and the boost to like, go full into it.
It's a good challenge to have. Way too much work, and figuring out how to get it done is way better than like, crickets.
Yes.
So we're recording this in the beginning of September, but you launched, so it's been officially 2 months, right? Was it the first week of July that you officially launched?
I think it was June 24th. So
okay. So just over 2 months. Initially 3 clients within the first 2 weeks. So let's talk details on how you did this. And actually, I think what would be really helpful is maybe just a little bit of your background leading up to launching your website, visualvibedesign.com, which is a mix of branding and web design. That's important to note too. So can you just share just a little bit about, and actually I know some of this, but I don't know all the details about your background as a designer. Like what was your background leading up to deciding I want to do this?
Yes. So originally when I was in design has always been a part of my life. When I was in middle school, I really wanted to work for Pixar. Like that was my thing. I was like, I love the Pixar movies, like John Lasseter. Like I got really into that world and I really wanted to do it. And then I saw some behind the scenes of him like going around and seeing what people were actually working on. And there was this clip where this guy was trying to match the voice to the animation, and it was listening to the same like 10-second clip for hours and hours to match it up. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't think I could sit there and do that. So I was like, maybe that's not for me. So then I went on, and then in high school, still loved design, would do side projects and stuff. Back when like PicMonkey was a thing, like back then in the early 2014, 2016. I was in high school from 2014 to 2018. So that kind of gives you a reference there. Okay. So anyway, then I took this graphic design program, which I liked, but it was very like fundamental based, which is great. And I already had some of those fundamentals. It was more about learning like the programs like Illustrator and a little bit of Photoshop and stuff, which was great. But then after that, I got out of high school and I was like, well, I'm not really sure what I want to do. So I kind of put design on the back burner, because one thing that I had heard a lot was there's no money in design, which I don't know why people were telling me this, or if it was like that it's hard to get it going maybe. But I was told that, and I was like, well, if I can't make money at doing what I love, then I'll just do something else and just kind of, do stuff on the side. So anyway, then COVID happened, and then all of that happened. And in between that time, I was a visual merchandiser, and I loved designing displays. I love designing displays and gift baskets. Like I am that girl.
I was just going to ask what visual merchandise. I've never heard that term. That's interesting.
Yes. So that's like creating displays, of products and different items and stuff in the store to make it visually appealing. So I loved doing that. And just design has always been a part of my life. And I was like, so then I was researching, actually my dad had a business, for land investing. And he was like, hey, I know that you're good with like technical stuff and you're good with design. Like, could you make a website for me? And I was like, I've never done it, but I can figure it out. Like, and that's always my answer with stuff is like, I haven't done it, but I can figure it out. And then I do. And then I fell in love with web design. And then that's when I found you in 2021. And I've just been watching your podcast ever since. And I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. But then it just never seemed like the right timing. And then I was helping my mom with her business. So I kind of would put myself on the back burner because I'm such a, like, I guess, helping other people more than myself sometimes. I have that tendency to like go all in on other people's stuff, but just kind of have that tendency to put myself on the back burner. But then after my grandfather died back in 2023, it really changed my perspective on a lot of things. That time, like you don't always have time. And that if you want to do something, you need to go after it and you need to fully pursue it, because at the end of the day, your life is so like finite. So like do the stuff you want to do now, stop putting it off. And so that's what really like triggered me. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I went to an old networking group that I was a part of, because of course I went for my mom's business. And I just mentioned, I was like, I want to do something in design. I knew that I wanted to do brand and web design, but I wasn't sure how to say that yet. And I wasn't ready for that. And I got my first like freelance client from that, because it was a guy that he had been in the networking with me, and he'd seen my design work over time, because I would do designs for this networking group. And he's like, could you do a website and like my logo for my business? And I was like, I was not expecting this, but I was like, yes. And I was like, I saw this as an opportunity and a sign, and I was like, I'm going in. And so we did it. And it was such a great experience. So thankful for my first freelance client. Zach, if he ever watches this, he was amazing client. And we had such a great time on his project. But so that's kind of where I got it. And then I was like, okay, I need to officially launch, because I've had a few freelance clients. And I was like, I want to make this a business. I want to make this like my future. Like, it's not just a side hustle for me. It's my future. It's what I want to do every day.
So that's an important note too, is that it's not like the first couple clients you got or the very first invoices you've ever sent. You had kind of dabbled into it and did some freelancing prior to that.
Yes.
Yeah. Very, very cool. So, but I would imagine that gave you just enough confidence to feel like if I could get one client and it went well. I mean, that's not always the case either. A lot of people get one client and then it's like, oh my gosh, Alexis in Pro, because people always they end up tagging you and meaning to tag Alexis. But her funny story when she was on the podcast is that she got a big e-commerce project for her first paying client, and it was a good person, but it was like a honker of a project. And I was like, don't worry, they're not all that bad. So your situation was actually opposite, to where it sounds like it went pretty dang well. So that's very cool to hear that. You dabbled into it just a little bit, which I think is really common too. I mean, most every designer starts out, it's like somebody offers you to do a website. If you enjoy it, you get paid. It wasn't a god awful experience. It's like, okay, maybe I could do this again, but better, charge a little more, do that again a few times over. And the next thing you know, like you said, you got a real business here.
Yeah, I am so thankful for my first client and my experience with him. Like, and I'll say it over and over again, like he was wonderful to work with. And I was so scared. I remember I was so scared to charge him. Like, I was so scared to charge him money. And I remember I went in with one total and he goes, for all that you're doing, double that. Like, I want to pay you double for what you're doing. And it was still a smaller amount. But to me, I was like, I mean, it was so crazy that he saw the value in me before I even really did, just through my designs that I had done in the networking group. He had seen that and how like committed I was. And it's just, I think a lot of that factored into our great experience together. And it was just, it was so good. I mean, I was so scared to charge, because I'm like, I love doing this and I really want to help, but money's always that. And other designers will be right there with me. It's so hard to just put a number on it. It is. It is.
Well, especially early on, and you're just figuring out your rate, your value in the market, and where other price points are. There's so many different variables to that. It's interesting though that he kind of stepped in as almost like a client mentor. I had a couple of those too early on, where they were like half client, but also kind of half business coach. Cause I've had some similar situations where they were like, yeah, you should probably charge way more. I'll be happy to do it this rate. That's so valuable when I don't think there's a way to seek that out, but man, I will say, if anyone gets a chance to have that opportunity, embrace that. If you have a client who's also kind of a semi-business mentor, especially early on.
Yeah. And he's just such a good person. And so I think that's why he was like, I think he saw something in me that I maybe didn't even see in myself yet. Because I went in and I was like, I just want to do something with design. Like, didn't even mention a business, didn't even mention anything. He's like, I want you to do my logo and my website. And I was like, that's perfect. That's amazing. Let's do it.
And so did you go to that networking group on behalf of your mom's company? Is that right? So he must have seen your work at some point.
Oh, yes. I would do, we would do these like challenges and stuff. It was actually a B&I group. And we would do like challenges. We did like a March Madness thing. And I made we came up with a name for our little team inside the group and like baited everything. And he was always the one that was commenting like, oh my gosh, I love, your design work. You did such a great job on this. And so that really, I think all the pieces just lined up, and I was so scared to take him on as a client because I had no invoice, no contract, I just came up with that stuff on the fly. I was like, let me research. And I gave him a good client experience based on just piecing the puzzles together like one after another instead of having everything laid out, which it kind of helped, but I can definitely tell that I've improved my client experience overall.
So how long was it between when you got your first paying client and then you officially started your business at the end of June? How long was that span?
I think it was probably a year and a half. I think it was a year and a half. Yeah. Cause I'm still working like a part-time job on top of that. Just because the way things lined up, I wanted to make sure I'd have everything, all the pieces put together. And I had 6 clients total before I officially launched my business. So I was working on other clients too. It wasn't just him.
Okay. All under your mom's company. You're doing dabble your foot into the freelance world, but you're also working part-time and doing some work for family and stuff. So, okay. All the puzzle pieces are fitting together here That's great. But it lays the foundation for getting ready to make this business happen. I have to ask you personally, Alexia, did you join Pro did you make the decision to really do this before joining Pro, or did you join Pro and then that helped you feel like you could do this? And honest thoughts on this. I would love to hear, because that's really important for me to know too, is like, are people going through the courses and joining the community to get the confidence, or have they committed and then they just need the steps?
Yes, I was fully committed to launching my design business, whether I was in Pro or not.
Okay.
But joining Pro gave me the confidence to, 1, launch it sooner, because I was like, I just need to get started. I need to go. 2, have the support, and 3, have the community of like, if something were to happen with a website, or if a client asks for something and I'm not entirely sure how to do that, having that support in a very active group, which is why I love that Pro is a little bit smaller on the community, because more people are involved. It's not just a random, Facebook group where there's thousands of people and you're just another user in there. Like, we're actually building relationships in Pro and helping each other out, even though we're all technically competition. I love your co-opetition vibe. That means so much to me. And it's actually helped me not only in Pro, but learn how to work with, or be in the space that other designers locally have been. Like, I've actually met up with 2 agency owners locally and just had coffee with them, and having that coming from that co-opetition of how can we exist in the same ecosystem without stepping on each other's toes is so important. And I'm so glad that I'm learning that through Pro, and I'm learning and actually using it in my personal network.
You just gave me chills. That visual is such a benefit to Pro. I mean, we haven't really talked about that, but it is a really cool indirect thing when you're in a community where technically, like you said, we are competition as web designers, but as we all know, the world is huge. There's millions of businesses. There's 200 people in Pro. We can work with each other, but that does filter out into in-person partnerships, which is so valuable. And I think what a lot of web designer pros are finding out, and what you're probably finding out, is like, you just learn to be a connector in Pro. And if you take that out into the quote unquote real world, or at least the physical world where you're actually meeting, seeing real people, that vibe, that feeling, or just almost that practice of connecting and partnering up and not being afraid to share your stuff and information and help people, that really does go such a long way. So I cannot wait to see, like, over the next year, how that continues to compound for you, because what you've done in a couple months with officially launching and networking is going to compound very quickly. I feel like you're going to be a big time connector in your area. I forget where you're based out of, Alexia. Where are you based out of?
It's Rogers, Arkansas,
Arkansas, that's
the
right.
home of Walmart area. Bentonville, Rogers, Lowell, it's all combined together.
Gotcha. So I imagine, and the reason I asked that too is because I'm wondering what your area is like. Is it a booming city? Is it a little more rural? What's your client base like there?
It's booming. And there's actually like 5, I guess, cities that are all like within an hour span of each other. And of course, with it being booming, and of course, like Bentonville is known for Walmart and really corporate stuff, and Fayetteville's more of the art scene, yet they've got like amazing things. Like it's really booming. The problem with that is there's a lot of great designers in the area, which it's amazing. And just seeing what people have built here, just in the last couple of years too, talking about meeting up with somebody that I even look up to as a person that's built a design business in the last 4 years, and what she's been able to accomplish is so inspiring. So I'm like, well, if they can do that, I can do it too. It's not as, oh, I want to come in and like crush them. And that's not my vibe. Mine is to find my place in the market and capitalize on my place, like making a place for me, not to take anything away from other people, but finding the right people that want to work with me and the services that I provide. And
I think an important note on that too is for everyone to remember, it's not like the business is there, like that's it. These are all the businesses. Yeah. There's only a little bit to go around. That scarcity mindset. It's like, there's going to be a lot of new businesses that pop up over the coming years. You know, like there's so much space now and moving forward. In fact, the demand is, as you know, for web designers and brand designers for that matter, is just going to increase over and over and over. So even in the wake of AI and everything else going on, clients need a trusted designer. They need a creative. They need help with this stuff. So super, super exciting. So let's get to like, right, a couple months before officially launching your business, you've done some freelance, you know your craft is at least on the design side of things. You're learning web design, feel more confident with that. You joined Pro, you learned a lot. You went through a lot of my courses. You were active in the community. You became, I saw you really work on your mindset as a business owner, and you're getting ready. What did the couple months of lead up to that look like? Like I said, you did a photo shoot. Yeah. Take us through, you have a launch plan that you posted in Pro. We don't have to go line by line, but what were the lead up steps leading up to the launch those couple months?
Yes. It's crazy to think about, but the first couple of months before Pro, it felt like my life had gone in a different turn. For example, my car, actually, the engine blew up in it. So that was a setback, and it felt like there were all these setbacks happening. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to push through it. I'm just going to do this no matter what. So that was one fun thing that happened. It just felt like everything was like, there were good things happening, but then on the opposite end, there were also things that was just like, oh man, my car, my this, my that. It's just like everything. So there was a polar opposite, but I was like, you know what? I'm not going to let any of this bad stuff get me down. I'm going to just keep going and persisting, because if I let these things get in the way of what I am saying is my future, my business, my future, my life, then I'm never going to do it. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to persist and get it. And, so I know exactly how important brand photo shoots are, like for the credibility of a business. So I was like, that's one of the first things that I want to invest in. So I did, and it was a good experience. I wish I would have gotten more lifestyle shoots, because this was my first photo shoot ever, other than family portraits when I was 5. So I got that done. I wish I would have gotten more lifestyle stuff so I could use it more on my social media, but I'm very happy with the pictures that I did get. And number 2, I am such a type A person that lists is like checklists, guides, all that stuff. I am that person. I love to make them. I love to create them. I love to follow them. So I was like, I'm going to create this launch plan. And to me, this was almost revealing my business to the people that were in my networking group before, because I still have them on Facebook, my friends, my family, and this is what I'm doing now. This is what I'm dedicating my life to do. This is, or at least the next 10, 15 years, this is what I want to do. So I wanted to make it as important and as a big deal as I could, because to me, it is a big deal. This is not just another, side hustle. This is not just another me getting money. This is me with my passion and helping people achieve their goals within brand and web design. And so I wanted to go full force with it, created a launch plan. I was like, you know what? How do you build hype for a brand? I went and I got a dress that matched my colors. I got balloons. I had a whole little side shoot with my mom out in our backyard area to where I held balloons and I was like making stuff for launch day. And it was so exciting to me because it was such a milestone for me personally, because in my personal life too, like a lot of my friends are getting married or having kids, and that's not the route that I'm going down. So making this as important to me is as important as those other events to people. You know what I mean? Like to make, and I think a lot of people as well with their business stuff, they see it as a good thing, but they don't see it as important as those other life events where I do. I see it as just as important as like, this is my future. This is my life. I want to create a launch plan and build hype around it so that other people take me seriously. And for two, it's a great memory to look back on that I went as hard as I did for my business at the very beginning as I'm going to do for the next 10, 15 years. You know what I mean? Like it's important to me to make a big deal out of stuff that is a big deal to me.
I love how do I phrase it? I love the emphasis on celebrating the start. Yeah. Because most people celebrate a milestone or the end or a project wrapping up, but very, very few people I've seen celebrate starting something. I don't know of honestly anybody who has celebrated an entire business starting. So I love that approach. That's so cool. And you're right. It does show your clients that you're serious. Even just a matter of like branding yourself, your site, you got the same colors, the visual vibe, if you will, pun intended. Like you have shown that like, well, she's taking this seriously. Mm-hmm. And to backtrack a little bit, the most important thing that I have seen you do well, and it's evident in this chat so far, is like you committed early on. Yeah. And the cool thing about when you make a commitment is that when your engine blows up and when you have derails and when things don't work out like you think they would, it doesn't matter. You're still committed. If you have to freaking get a bike or get a moped for a little while, you do that. Like, because things do happen. And if people don't commit, then that's when they're derailed and they don't even start. So good on you, Alexia, for doing that first. Good on you for taking this seriously. And again, that reminder of like celebrating the start is so cool. By the way, if anyone feels like, well, I already started my business, I missed it, you could still celebrate things. You can still celebrate, for example, when I started my podcast, I made it like a celebration. I kind of teased it and I was like, we're going to do a podcast finally, and then made a big deal out of it and launched with 3 episodes. And it was a big deal back in 2019. And now I can kind of look back on that and say like, it was fun to see when we launched the podcast. So for you, you have an even bigger milestone because it's the launch of your business. You know, before you know it, you'll be at the year mark and be like 1 year. So I just love that. I just want to really harp on like that idea of celebrating the start. I love it.
Yeah. And I think celebrating the start is a great way to celebrate the hard work that you've put in. Starting a business, any business, especially one like I've known that I wanted to do web design at least, and then branding came in a little bit later because I still had those skills and I was like, yeah, I think I could do that too. And I'm really interested in it. I love it. And I love them about the same now. But since 2021, and I'm just now in 2024, so I let a lot of things get in the way, or I pushed them to the back burner to focus on other things. But you know what? I was like, for this duration of time, I'm focusing on my business and growing it to the potential that I see it. And so it really helps me out a lot to celebrate the launch of my business because it felt like a long time coming. It felt like I put in the foundation steps for a couple of years, really, to launch my business. And so launching the start, just it like you said, it makes other people take you seriously. It's not just, it's not just one post on Facebook that says, hey, I'm doing web design now. It's really making it an event for other people to see and building that hype of like, oh, what's going on here? Why does she have balloons? Why is she in, a dress? What is she doing there? And people watched it. And I think I got over, 1,000 plays on that video, which is good for me because I was never a social media person. Like I'm still learning the realm of that. I had a Facebook page and that was about it. Like a personal profile. I've never been in the social media realm. So 1,000 plays on one of my videos was amazing to me.
And on that note, let's dig into like where and how you got the word out, because as we've already established, which is, I'm so glad that we got some of the foundation to this, because it shows that you did have an existing network, small, but still a network. And I'm sure you have clients through your mom's company, and sounds like your family was somewhat entrepreneurial as well. Like there was a personal and professional network that was slightly established, friends on social media and stuff. But to start off new accounts, it's still going to be really low numbers. I mean, I think you started with, still quote unquote low, but mighty, which is the most important thing. Quality, it's basically a quality over quantity game in the beginning. But did you start on all the socials and just repurpose that content? Was that the game plan? Did you have focus on a few socials more than others?
I knew that, so with my existing network, like my mom's business was a cleaning company. So I knew a little bit, like it didn't have anything to do with design. But it gave me the foundations for, okay, so I helped her go and like get the LLC and get the business license and like start a bank account, so that I was familiar with that process. So that I feel like set me up for success of like, okay, well, we got to go do this first and this. So I wasn't completely lost in the actually starting the business portion of it. And then, I'm sorry, what was the question again? I kind of got off track there.
Mainly your social media, because I think I would imagine for anyone who's thinking about launching, it's like, well, if I don't have any social media set up, am I just going to launch to 2 people? Like, or do I just add a bunch of people to the email list? So yeah, I guess a more succinct question is like, how did you launch and where did you launch to?
So there are, in my area, there are about 5, well, there's probably more than that, but there are 5 business Facebook groups that I'm a part of. So I wanted to use those in my strategy. I wanted to use my personal profile. And then I created a business page for my business and a business Instagram. And then of course I had LinkedIn, which I'm not really that active on there. It's just not my preferred platform. And then my Instagram, I was basically starting from zero. So on my Instagram page, I was starting from zero. On my business Facebook page, I was starting from zero. And then I just had my friends and a little bit of my professional network on my personal Facebook, and then the groups that I was in. So I kind of shared all the content that I could between those, which I would actually recommend for other designers out there. Start those social medias now and just start posting your work along the way, so that when you have your big launch, you have something for them to go look at, because I didn't have that.
Gotcha.
So that's one, I'm already learning lessons in business but to me at the time, it made sense in my brain that this is my big launch, this is my big reveal, when really I should have been breadcrumbing along the way of like, hey, I'm working on this now, or hey, this is, something I'm doing now. But to me, it was like, oh, this big launch, and it's just this ultimate reveal, when really to launch a business and a product, it's better to have those breadcrumbs of like, oh, hey, we're working on this, or I should have been posting more behind the scenes of really starting the business up. So I think that would have helped a lot more.
Yeah. I don't know though. In a way, I think you did it right. I mean, I do agree it would be nice to launch and at least have like a few recent projects live, which I know we'll get into, because you did do that as you progressed. But I think if you're not officially launched and you're talking about doing work, you might confuse people if they're like, well, are you open? And worst case, if somebody sees that and they're like, oh my gosh, I want that, but she's not launched yet, it almost could make some confusion. So I would almost say like, maybe even if it's just a span of a week or two, have those ready to go. But I think the risk of confusing people, if you like tease them, then it's like, well, I want it now. I don't want to wait 3 weeks. I need a logo. I need a website. So I actually think in a way, like it's pretty clever the way you did that. The other thing that was super clever, what you just hit on, was you utilized your personal profiles.
Yeah.
And you probably don't want to have all of your clients as personal Facebook friends or whatever, but the best way to build up your business profiles is to utilize your personal profile. And then eventually, I don't know, you tell me, Alexia, do you imagine that eventually you'll start posting more from your business profiles, but it just being in those groups and having friends on Facebook with a personal profile? Was that kind of how you started to get follows on your business profiles?
Yes. So I started with my personal network of like the big launch and posting everything on there, and it went over really well. I'm very happy with my launch. And then I feel like I'm kind of playing catch up a little bit. So that's why I said I might have wanted to post some projects on there before, because when you do your big launch and people go to your your business profiles, but you don't have anything on there yet. It's like, what am I looking at? What kind of content are they going to put on there? So at the moment, I've got all these projects from the last year and a half that I'm putting on my socials now, that it kind of feels like, oh man, I'm just bringing up old stuff when I'm working on new stuff, but I don't have the new stuff completely ready yet because I want to post the old stuff and get that done. So I'm playing a game between now and then. And so I think that's kind of why I suggested that a little bit.
Okay.
As any designer knows, if you go back a year and look at your old project, you're like, oh, I want to do this and I want to tweak this and tailor that. And I don't have time to do that, nor do I want to go back and work on old stuff that's no longer giving me any money. You know what I mean? Like I need to work on the new stuff to focus on my business and my revenue goals. So yeah.
Yeah, that's all right though. I mean, again, it worked. Most importantly, it worked. Most importantly, no matter if you could have done things better. I mean, yeah, it's like everybody who starts a business, there's always things like, dang it, why'd I do that? Or, but you got 3 clients within 2 weeks doing that. I was actually just looking back through. We'll make sure I have your Facebook and your Instagram linked up for everyone to go back through and just see the progression of this, because it really does. It's interesting to see how it like builds. Like you have the launch day with the balloons was so cool. Leading up to that, you did a giveaway, and then now you've just got nonstop social proof. And you spoke at you were at a women's conference. It looks like for business owners. Like, yeah, it's awesome. And yeah, they're low numbers, but most importantly, you're still slammed with work, getting caught up with everything. So, where did these 3 clients come from? Have you been able to track like directly on any of these, or do you think it all just culminated to landing those 3 clients? I would love to hear about how practically you got those 3 clients in the first couple of weeks.
So one client was a referral of a project that I had just completed. So I had completed her project about the time that I had started my launch, like that I was launching my business. So it all lined up to like, she was able to send her friends to my website and like see it and see her friends' stuff on my website, her project. So that was good. Had lined up perfectly. I was like, thank goodness.
So you had your website live just in time then.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had it live about, I think, a week before I launched. So I think she may have seen it a little bit earlier because I did send it to her and I was like, because we're kind of friends now.
Okay.
And so me and my client are. And so I was just like, hey, just wanted to let you know, like I'm launching and, I'm putting your project on there and everything. And so she got to see it. That was awesome. And then another one was a friend of a friend who was in my networking circle that just had no idea I was doing design, which is obvious because I hadn't posted about it. And of course, my professional network before didn't really know I was going to do design because I was kind of out of that networking group by the time that I had launched and really started working on my business. And then one was from Facebook. They just said that they were from Facebook and they had seen like my launch stuff. So I was like, okay, cool. No more questions asked. Like, come on now. Yeah.
Freaking awesome. So Facebook and Instagram are your heavy hitters, right? As far as your social game?
Yes, for now.
And you're on LinkedIn, you have a presence on LinkedIn, not super active, and on TikTok too, right?
TikTok, I'm trying. I've never been a person to like try to put myself out there and post videos, but I'm like, it kind of helps because I see my 10-year goal of where I want to be. And so these things that I'm having to do now, I'm just like, I just got to do it. Like, I just got to put myself out there because if I want to be the person who I aspire to be in 10 years, I'm just going to have to do it. I've never been a person to like put myself out there and on social media. I didn't have a big Instagram. I wasn't an Instagram person. And so I'm learning how to do that and like posting videos and really putting myself out there. So it's a little hard, but I'm trying. That's the best thing I can say is I'm trying. You're
doing great, Alexia. It's funny because your Instagram is double your follow than your Facebook. So like Instagram, I actually, just judging based off of that, I would have thought you were more of an Instagram person. No. So if it makes you feel any better, I was the same way a couple of years ago. I was never on Instagram and now I actually really enjoy it. I prefer to be on that over Facebook. So the cool thing is too, though, is I really think you're doing a great job with keeping the focus on the two. And Facebook and Instagram being owned by Meta are so interlinked in a lot of ways. Like they really do play nicely together. Yeah, the formatting can be different, but I feel like that's plenty enough to keep up with. Like for now, I would probably, as your coach, just recommend that you just keep a basic presence on LinkedIn. Even if you do like a few static pin posts that are like, here's a post on branding, here's on web design, and meet me. Like that could hold you over for a while, because the thing that a lot of designers run into that is kind of a hidden challenge or consequence of being active on too many social medias is it's not so much the content creation and posting, 'cause that's obviously a huge part of the work, but it's the engagement.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if I do have an active presence on LinkedIn, do I have time to engage on LinkedIn and answer all the DMs and connect with people? Same thing with TikTok. If I don't know the platforms, I don't know how the DM is structured. Like that's the other hidden aspect to going too far and too wide in the beginning is, can you keep up communication?
Yeah, that's another thing. I think that's why I really like Instagram as well, which I wasn't super like, Instagram wasn't my forte because I had an Instagram in high school, but it was nothing. Like it was really nothing. But a lot of people going to networking events and like the women's conference that I went to, they all wanted to connect on Instagram. And I was like, okay, well, if people are on there, then I'm going to be on there. And that's where I'm going to be. And I really like that because it's easy for me to interact with people and not just for my engagement but to like other people's stuff, to go on their stories and to like their stories. And because that's another thing that people don't talk about too, is you could post all day long, but you know, what people remember when you like their stuff, when you comment on their stuff. If you're constantly on there liking their stuff and engaging, and of course be genuine about it, like don't just go over there and spam them, obviously. But if I see something I like and I'm like, oh, I want to, support you in a way, I can like, or I can comment, and doing that to the people that I've met and the business owners and really being genuinely happy and interested in their businesses has also helped me out too.
That's a great point. There's such a value to that as like a marketing tool, just by being top of mind, which it's not even you posting content. It's just you being top of mind by like DMing them, or if they share a story, like doing a love or doing a clap or just saying, oh, it was so great to meet you. Love what you're up to. Non-salesy, no pressure. Don't have to be on camera. You're not creating content. That is a really, really important note, even for myself to remember, of how valuable it is just to stay top of mind by just a simple like or a love in the case of Instagram. I love to hear that, like, all these little strategies have compounded for you. And again, 3 clients within 2 weeks. One thing I have to ask you is, tell me honestly, Alexia, were you worried about annoying people by posting a lot the first couple of weeks when you launched?
Yeah, I was really worried because I mean, even with my personal Facebook, I was never posting on there. Like, I mean, I think I even took a few months just where I didn't post at all, just because I was just kind of working on my own stuff. I'm honestly on YouTube more than any other app, which I would eventually love to get into making YouTube videos, but that's a whole other commitment that I cannot do right now. So I don't want to like half do it. And so I'm trying to focus on the little stuff first, and then eventually building up to where I can have the YouTube video to where I take that and I repurpose that content on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, and it kind of all feeds into one, and then have a blog post. But that's a lot to handle when you first start. So I'm not there yet, but I have that big picture idea. So I'm doing the little pieces to get that set up eventually.
Wise decision.
Yeah, I have a whole idea, but I can't execute it yet, but I'm still planning for the future on some things like that.
So when you launched, were you posting every day? Were you posting a couple times a week? I mean, imagine 3 clients in less than 2 weeks. You had to have been more than a once a week post, I would imagine.
Yes. So I posted a little bit before my launch. So like a pre-launch, I had taken some like behind the scenes of my photo shoot, and like having that kind of stops people. They're like, because it's a professional shoot. And so it was kind of like, people were like, well, what is she doing? Like they were kind of intrigued. They were like, professional photo shoot for her new venture. What's her new venture? So I had a lot of comments on just that post of the behind the scenes, not even my photos or anything, just the behind the scenes of me at the photo shoot. And I thought, oh, that's really cool, because it shows professionalism too. Like, oh, what is she doing that she's going to a photo shoot to do? So I think that helped out a lot, because then people were anticipating like, well, when are you going to reveal this? And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to do it on a Monday, which I honestly would not suggest on a Monday because everybody's like working on their stuff. But it happened to be a day where I could be fully committed to responding to posts and not having anything else go on. Like it was just a full like launch day. I could do my business and fully work on my business. So that is what I would suggest, is to pick, and I responded to every single comment, like every single comment. I liked it. I responded to it, because that in itself will boost your post back up to the top, is to like and respond. Even if other people are still like not commenting on there, if you respond to it, it goes back up to the top. And it also shows how many people have commented, and it counts your comments too. And then people are like, oh my God, there's 50 something comments on this. Like, what is all this about? So constantly building hype and then thanking people for their support or thanking them for nice comments and stuff. I think that's missed a lot when people launch or even post stuff, is responding to comments. So that's my game. I love responding to comments. For one, I'm so grateful that people took the time to comment. For two, I'm like, I can get extra engagement here. So I do that. So yeah, I think that's, yeah.
And it's such a low, not a low risk or low pressure, but like a low weight marketing activity, because you don't need to put makeup on and turn the camera on and record a video and then create a blog post, like just by responding to comments. And like you said, especially if it's on something like Facebook, that's algorithmic wise going to bump things up based off engagement. And then comments are there forever unless you delete them. So you could say, like, if somebody asks you a question, you could say, oh yeah, I offer this in branding and I can help you out with web design. Well, suddenly 100 people may see that comment in the next week or two. And that was 100 people that got eyes on that you didn't have to send an ad to, or send, again, a video to, or email. Like, there's really such a good reminder too, to utilize commenting publicly if you can. DMs are great too, but the cool thing about public comments is everyone sees them. And like you said, you know, you're not being salesy, you're not being pushy, but if you just are cool and casual and talk like you would in a coffee shop or something, that's where the true magic to the, you see it, like all this is compounding. I just love it. And the reason I asked about the feeling of like, how am I going to be annoying people is, and I know you've seen it too, like so many folks in pro and just web designers in general. I think creatives struggle with this, is we're usually not marketers first. We're usually creatives first, and then we have to learn how to market. And inevitably everyone's like, I don't want to annoy people. Same thing with emails, promotions, launches. You don't want to annoy people. But the reality is you could post multiple times every day and you're not going to annoy somebody, because especially on social media, not everyone's going to see it. And number two, we all take in so much. I'm going to glance past your post and be like, oh, that's cool. And then that might be it. So I need to see it again to really be interested and really have kind of a click or a pull to be like, oh, now I like, what is it? Like the seven rule where you have to see an ad. Seven impressions before you're like, oh, okay. Just on average, like that. I can tell by how many years I've been doing this. That's about right. Like sometimes it takes 7 newsletters or 7 emails for me to hear from somebody who's like, okay, let me take that free thing finally. So, you're doing so many things right. And I just hope that gives everyone encouragement. I don't know. Looking back after a couple months on this, do you feel like do you feel good about how much you posted? Do you feel like you could have done more? Yeah,
I feel like I could have done more. I feel like I should have done a little bit more on the post-launch part of like having that, because again, I did think I was going to annoy people. Like, people don't want to hear from me. People are, they're doing their stuff. But really, like you said, people are either they're scrolling, or for two, they might be scrolling in the car on their, on their way to work, which you really shouldn't be doing if you're driving, but it happens. So people are scrolling, and then they maybe see a glance of something, and then it's off. They close their phone, they're done. So having that constant reminder is great. And then I wish I would have really amped up my testimonials, because I had great, and I still have great testimonials from my freelance clients that I should have been like every day posting a new one and a new project. But again, then I got those clients and I was like, oh, this is where the money's at. I gotta tend to these clients instead of focusing on posting. So it was kind of got that. That's why in my launch plan, I recommend having a month's worth of social media posts ready, already filmed, already done, already calculated out, so that all you're having to do is go in there and post, which I've tried to figure all that stuff out after I launched instead of before.
But again, it worked. And the real question is, had you done all that, would you be able to handle like 3 times the amount of work that you have right now? That's the real question. Like, I don't know. Again, maybe a blessing in disguise that you had just enough work to get yourself nice and busy and hold over. But the really cool thing about that is you can just continue to you don't have to relaunch, but you now have all these testimonials and all this social proof and all this new work and previous work, if you want to display it, that you can start to schedule out and repurpose, especially as you get these projects out the door. And then inevitably, when you have big launches and big waves, you have a little bit of a drought after. So I don't know, my coaching advice is like, just proactively be ready to go. As soon as you have a project done, checks in the bank, payments in the bank, then get ready to do another little push on social media with content and stuff. Obviously, consistency can help, but for most service providers, even if you do things in sprints, that's fine too. Just go ham for a couple months, get work done, and then go ham for another couple months. That's honestly a fine way to go.
Yeah, right now I'm working on, I guess that's like having filming days to where I have 20 ideas. And mine is a lot of like, because they're easy for me to do, is just talking to the camera, just talking head videos, short form content to where I can talk about a subject or one thing or tell a little bit of a story, like a client story. And so having those to where they're grueling days, and I hate it because sometimes I'll mess up, and then it's like, you get on the verge of like, oh God, I've said the same thing like 5-6 times, but I want to get it right. And they suck. But if I only have to do them like once or twice a month, then it's better than having to do my hair, do my makeup, get the right lighting every single day or every couple days. It's just better to just do a batch content, have all of that. Then I can repurpose it and use it for what I need to. So that's what I'm really working on, is my content bank.
Awesome.
And having that where I can pull from and plug it in where I need to.
The thing with that too, that I always have to remind myself, because it feels weird. It doesn't feel slimy or like scammy, but it feels weird. And that is to just post older content again. And I'm sure there's a lot of dialogue on this that I just circles that I'm not a part of, but I have what I know of like some of the top creators and top entrepreneurs is that's what they do. There's posts from 2 years ago that no one has seen. And it's such an important reminder for folks. It's like, you may have talked about something over and over and over again, but that is brand new to somebody. Yeah. Like when you came into my world in 2021 or whatever it was. And then when we started talking via YouTube is where we first started chatting. And I think like I've talked about getting clients since 2016. So like, surely somebody has had to hear that, but no, like that's brand new to you. My idea of, client acquisition. So it's important for me to remember too, all content creators, all service providers who are doing any amount of content. Just recycle it, keep it coming. It really, and you don't have to create new content all the time. If you have new stuff, awesome, but there's no shame in repurposing older content. If anything, it's just people are going to lose it. No one's going to find you and be like, oh, she's cool. I'm not going to go back to your 100th post and find someone. Very, very unlikely.
Yeah. A lot of the time it's not being, and also with your content and like your projects, like for example, like brand and web design, there's a ton of ways where you can take what your project is and you can make several different type of videos, but it's the same project. So that's what I'm working on. I've got like 5 or 6 styles of videos that I'm taking one project and I'm dividing it up into different, like how to take this one project and repurpose it to these different things to where it's like a different feel. Like people are still feeling like they're getting a new piece of content, which they are, but I'm taking this one idea or this one project and spreading it. Yeah,
I was just thinking this could be a fun challenge for Pro, is if in the form of a case study, to essentially do like those little sections of a case study, which is basically just a blog post about like a before and after, talk about conversions, messaging, to do that on the website and have those little videos as the blog post, as the case study on your website. But then you just siphon each one of those off for social media. That's actually a really great way to think about that, instead of doing, say, like a 10-minute video of a before and after that probably not too many clients are going to look through. But if you had maybe a quick before and after, here's what the site looked like before, here's what it looked like after. The next section is about the copy and just some tweaks you made on the copy. The next one's about the call to action, having one primary call to action, and then some specifics. That acts as a meaty blog post case study that could be on the portfolio page. And there's 5 posts for social media over the next week or two. That's actually kind of a really cool way to basically take one long form piece of content and just chunk it up.
Yeah, that's what I'm working on, sort of. I don't have a blog or anything yet, but that's the ultimate goal, is to create a longer form piece of content with maybe a YouTube video or a blog, and then taking that, breaking that up into sections and having like a whole system. I would eventually like to do that. But again, when you're first starting and you're doing all this, do not get overwhelmed with having to do everything and feeling like, oh, well, I need a YouTube channel. I need to do Pinterest. I need to do LinkedIn. Just chill. It's okay. You don't have to be everywhere all at once, all the time.
Yeah.
Like, that's one thing I'm still teaching myself and learning, because I see that 10-year, that big picture of where I want to be and having all these systems and everything in place. But as one person, especially a solopreneur where I don't have a partner, it's just me. You have to do what you have capacity for to not run yourself down. Because right now, I don't have capacity for starting a whole thing on Pinterest to try to get my stuff out there, or starting a YouTube channel, or even starting a whole blog. Like, I want to piece it out and learn along the way instead of trying to overwhelm myself.
And I think what you're hitting on there is the real honest thought and the honest challenge you have to ask yourself, which is, do you want attention or do you want income?
Yeah.
What's the priority? If you just want a few clients, you did everything exactly right. You don't need to go into YouTube yet and further and do more. Like, you could keep your social media going, trickling along until, again, so you do have a project that you can make a case study and then break off 5 or 6, pieces of content for it. It's such an important reminder, because it's so easy to, chase vanity metrics, just likes and follows. And I'm sure you've had the thoughts. It's like, well, I've got 69 people on Instagram right now, half of that on Facebook. It's like, is this even worth it? I don't know what you thought about in the way of like how fast these would grow. But the reality is, when you are a web designer or graphic designer, unless you are targeting your content to building an audience, you just need to worry about clients.
Yeah.
And 70 people is fine. That is plenty enough people, because a lot of those are following you and they haven't bought from you yet, but they probably will over the next few months.
I mean, it's just a testament to say, like, there are lurkers, and I'm one of them. Like, I saw this post on Threads about lurkers, and I'm like, that's me. Like, that's me 100%. I had been watching you since 2021. I had probably liked a couple videos. I may have commented a couple times. I don't exactly remember, but I would sit there and on my walks or in the car, I would constantly be listening. So I'm getting to know you, and I'm lurking. I'm not really engaging that much. I'm not your, number one fan of typing in the comments and everything, but I'm listening. I'm watching. I'm absorbing your content. I'm getting to get a feel for you as a person, what, you offer. And then when I was ready, I was ready. I was like, boom. When I'm ready, I'm ready. I'm in there. I know this is what I need. I'm an analytical buyer as well as slightly emotional buyer. But I had already known that that's what I wanted. It's just the timing. The timing is what I already knew, that was the step that was going to help me. But I had to get to know you first, because if I didn't get to know you through those couple of years where I just listened to your podcast, then I wouldn't have felt the connection and like, oh, this is the right avenue for me. So having that, your lurkers, make content for your lurkers. All I got to think when I make content and I get one like on it is there's probably 5 to 10 people that saw it that just didn't comment on it. But
at least
I'm there. I'm there. I'm in front of them. They saw me, and I'm making content for them, because they may be one of those people where they maybe watch my stuff for 6 months to a year, maybe even longer than that. And then all of a sudden they're ready. And they're like, this is the person for me. I've been watching you. I've been learning about you and your methods and your ways and how you talk about your clients, how you treat your clients, everything about you, your vibe. And they have already decided this is the person for me. And that's the easiest person to sell to, because they already want it. They already know it. They know the price. Usually, like, I'm price transparent. That's my thing. I have my prices on my website. So they've already geared up to buy it. It's just pulling the trigger at the right time.
You know what's something I realized as you were talking there? I was really visualizing this on social media in general, and whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Before I say this, I am by no means throwing shade at anyone who comments on my stuff, because I do appreciate it. Please keep doing it. But one thing I've learned is the creepers are often the customers.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people who are my top fans on like Facebook and others and top commenters on YouTube have actually either not purchased from me at all, or they've maybe just bought like one thing. Like it is often, not all the time, but often that your best customers are not the engaged social media following. So I love that you've really brought to life like how important it is to remember one like, that's all right. 100 people maybe have seen that. And more importantly, maybe 2 or 3 of them are actually going to purchase from you, having not even liked the episode or the piece of content.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that's kept me going through this, because a lot of people will get discouraged and say, okay, well, I'm getting 3 likes, or I'm getting this. Is it even worth it? And I'm thinking more and I'm trying to engage more with people, like with liking their stuff and commenting on their stuff as well, not just as a marketing tactic, but as well as like helping them and realizing, hey, it's worth it to keep posting, to like give them that feedback. Yeah. But sometimes you're just a lurker, and you're just lurking, and I love that term, because it's like they're in the background, but they're always watching you, but they're just waiting. They're waiting to where they can grab it, and then it's theirs, and that's what I do. I do it all the time. And I got to thinking about that, and I'm like, I need to just keep making content for those people, because when they're ready, they're going to be ready to buy, and they're going to know that it's me and my service is what they want. And they want the result that I can give them from that. So how can I showcase those results and my service and line it up to what they want for their business? So that's my ultimate goal there.
It's important to remember too, and I'm sure you've seen this with your posts so far. You talked about sharing about who you are and getting to know someone. I don't know how far you've gone into like sharing more about you as a person and your background and your so yeah, that would kind of be my challenge for you, is like, let's see the more personal side of you and a little bit more about your backstory, your personality, the kind of hobbies you're into and stuff. Because what I've found is you could do a post that's actually like really good and can help somebody make a lot of money, and you'll get like 3 likes. But you show a picture of your dog. I do it all the time. My Goldens in my office. You've seen it. Like I'll post a picture of one of them, and it's like, everyone's like, oh, so cute. I'm like, meanwhile, this post where I literally tell you how to make 6 figures and like some of the top tips got like 3 likes. It really does work like that. And I think a lot of that goes to the creeper thing, where it's like, a lot of people are looking at, they're just not engaging with it. And we're both the same way. I think everyone's like that. It's easy to forget that we're all like that too, when you put your heart and soul into a really important business building post, and then the engagement seems to drop off. But then it's like, again, how many people saw it and are ready to take action now? Or maybe if you just keep on harping on that and stay top of mind.
And speaking of that, of like the one of my posts that did the best on Instagram was not even about my business. It was a post where I had just gotten out of the gym, and it was my first time being back in the gym since launching my business, because I kind of put that on the back burner for a minute. And I had posted that. I was in my car, and I was like, you know what? I know other people have got to be feeling this way, and this is how I feel in this moment. So I just recorded. I'm like, I'm making a commitment to myself. I'm not letting my business get in the way of my fitness like right now, because that's a really important thing for me to continue on my fitness journey. And I had let my business like, oh, well, instead of going to the gym, I can do this thing real quick. Instead of going on my walk every morning like I was last summer, I'm just going to, do this instead. And so I was like, you know what? I posted that on there, and people felt the exact same way that I felt, and they could relate to that. And that's why they liked it. They commented. They were like, this is a great reminder. I think you even maybe commented on it too. I was like, this is a great reminder for us to really remember. And it's relating business owner to business owner and person to person, and not just business. I was really surprised that was one of my most liked posts, and everybody was like, I felt this, I get it. And they could relate to me in that way, because everybody wants to look good, have money, and be successful, and have people and family and friends. Like all of those fundamental things, if you could relate to people through that, and not just even like seeking out to relate to people through that, but just being yourself, people can relate to it.
Yeah, that's great. I was just looking at that post. Yeah, you got a ton of comments that were like, yes, like you said, I did mention like, it's such a great reminder, because even that kind of thing, it shows. Well, it shows a lot about you. It shows that aside from the professional stuff that you already built up as far as your vibe, sticking with your brand. It also shows that you are committed to being healthy, but you look great, Alexia. Like, do you feel like I'm gonna have to get a whole new shoot soon because like a new person a few months later? Like, it really does show that you're committing to your business, you're committing to your health, and that in itself is a sales tool. Like, just showing that you're being healthy has actually a huge sales tip. I mean, no one needs to be this, the six-pack abs bropreneur to get clients. But if you showing that you're doing healthy practices and just taking yourself more seriously and your health seriously and personally development. By the way, when you're reading a book, share the book you're reading. That will go a long way. Like, all these little things contribute to a social media presence that are just compounds to little ways to get clients and to build your brand.
Yeah. And I think one tip that goes into that as well, and I thought I had to have it all figured out and have this professional feel and this agency look and this whole thing. But would people that are entrepreneurs have started from the ground up and they've built something and all you're seeing is what they've built? You didn't see the nights where they came home and they did not want to work on their business, but they did. Or that they didn't have a whole office before, they were working in a corner of their bedroom. Like, you don't see that because people don't want to post that stuff. And that's okay. I don't really want to post, my little corner that I'm in all the time, because I want to have that more professional look. But then again, you have to think that people see that you're trying. And I think that's what really matters, whether it's business, fitness, or a combination of both, or for your clients, that people see that you're trying and they see that even though things are not perfect, you're still putting in the effort. You're still putting in the effort, the thought, the behind it, because you believe in it. You're committing to this and you believe in yourself and you believe in what you can do for your clients, and people see it. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to have the perfect lighting all the time. You don't have to have the perfect setup or the perfect words. People can see that you're trying, and that's what really matters most. And that's the same, the content that I watch all the time. People are not perfect. They don't have the perfect hair, the perfect makeup. They get on there and they just do it. And they give you a piece of valuable information, or they relate to you in some way. They give you a laugh, like whatever it is, it doesn't have to be perfect. And I have to tell myself that all the time, that just to get it out there and people see you're trying. And then a year from now, you could see where you were, instead of waiting for it to be perfect and then finally happen. Because if you wait for perfection, it's not going to happen. So that's things that I have to keep telling myself.
I love the motivational side of what you're up to, Alexia. I absolutely foresee, I can't wait to see what you're doing in a few years. It's going to be wild. But even to your point earlier, where you said you were just investing like a chunk of time in recording a video, maybe somewhere in an office or elsewhere. Mm-hmm. But the cool thing about that is, you could get the makeup on and do a video for a little while and have that as your content pieces for a few months. Yeah. And then you can still show up on media using all the other strategies we talked about via commenting, DMing, posting work that you're actually not even on camera for. It's just your work or your screen. So there is a really great way to do social media without being an influencer and your face is on camera all the time. Yeah. So I love that point. It really is. It's very, very doable, especially if, I do think it's important to get yourself on camera at some point, but like the gym video that you did was a great example of just, it was real, it was casual, it was a really good message, it was a great reminder. You sprinkle those in with a professional, your tips or shorts. What an incredible strategy. I mean, we're really taking this conversation into social media strategy, but it's what worked for you. Did you taper off once you started getting those clients? Have you tapered off the amount of times that you're posting on social?
I'm still not consistent. And that's one of the worst things that I could do is not be as consistent as I want to. Because of course my clients and everything, I tell them, I'm like, well, what are the things on, if you want to go the social media route, which I'm not a social media manager, that's not my bread and butter. I don't really want to do that. Eventually, if I were to build an agency, I would hire somebody specifically for that, because that's not my forte. But it's being consistent and showing up. And I'm thinking, at least if I could get a post a week out on one of them, that's a great start, because you'll hear, oh, you need to post 3 to 5 times on Instagram. You need to post every single day, multiple times a day on TikTok. I can't do that. I'm just going to be point blank. I can't do that. I have client work. I have things that I'm working on outside of that. And it's just, I can't be that person right now. And I felt like if I put myself to that pressure of, if you don't post every day, it's not worth it, then I'm never going to do it. So I've just decided that what I can do is what I can do. And eventually I'll get more consistent with it. And eventually I will have a whole system like I'm talking about. But for now, I'm putting out what I can.
That's totally fine. I'm here to tell you that is absolutely fine. That would actually be my recommendation for you. Like we talked about earlier, I would just do it in sprints. Like you get a couple of these projects done, you now have content that you could publish out. And again, we do the blog post case study route. Chunk that out into 5 different pieces. You got 5 posts that you could do for a month if you wanted to. And the cool thing about that too is consistency, while it's really valuable, it does tend to get, just like anything, you just get used to seeing it. And it's like, oh, there it is again. Oh, there it is again. Especially I run into this like with my podcast posts where I'm trying to keep it somewhat fresh. So it's not like the same look over and over again, but people do start to glaze over something when it's just all the time. So if you do sprinkle in like, oh, Alexia is back with a new project, it does feel a little more special in some ways. Cause it's like, oh snap. She just did a new project. And then you get that hit of a couple of weeks of that. That is a fine way to go. So yeah, you're on it. You're doing everything right, honestly.
A cool thing that I did want to mention here, I think I've said it a little bit, but a cool opportunity that I'm getting to do in October is I'm so scared to do this because I haven't done one before, but I'm teaching 2 workshops at my local library on branding and web design. And I just think that's so cool. And I'm so nervous to do it, but I'm so excited to do it and to be able to give that opportunity. So I just think that's awesome. Like, do you have any advice for hosting a workshop or anything like that? That's one thing I wanted to kind of.
Sure. Let's make this coaching chat. How did that come about? Did you reach out to them or did they reach out to you?
So I had actually taken a couple of like a product photography class there, and they're all free classes. But I saw the amount of people that came for that photography class and I was like, this is cool. And I saw the person's presentation and I was like, okay, I could do something like this. And so I talked to the person that was kind of facilitating and I was like, hey, I'm a brand and web designer. Like, do you guys ever have classes on that? Or is that something? They're like, oh, we've been having people ask about that stuff. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. And I'm like, so how does it kind of go about? And so we just got hooked up and then now I'm teaching 2 workshops. And I'm like, that's so cool. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, my biggest advice for a workshop or a webinar, whether it's in person or online, any sort of training, any sort of free training, do something or have a part in it that they could have immediate takeaways.
Gotcha.
So they could literally, like, you could show them, like, go on your website, let's look at your heading. What can you tweak? Like maybe they have 3 different call to actions. You're confusing people. Just do one. Like put this on your website. Do something immediately. Whether it's a little harder with branding because if you talk about design, I think copy and website tips are probably the easiest to implement pretty quickly. If they can't just create a new logo in 45 minutes. So although there's still things they could do with branding, you could show elements and design that helps, or maybe even like a style guide that could be used for everything else. Maybe they don't have that. And they're like, oh, I could totally, or hire you to put together my logo and my colors and my style. That way we keep it uniform. Anything you can do to give an immediate takeaway, that is the best way to go. I wish somebody would have told me that early on when I started doing webinars and trainings and presenting at summits. Is I tended to talk about big picture things that would take time to implement. And unless they're a paying client, you need to give them something that they can literally do right there, because quick wins are the name of the game with free trainings. Quick wins. If you can show somebody like, holy crap, I didn't even think about that. And I could implement that today or this week, and then it works. Then they get a client. Then they're like, well, Alexia knows her stuff. All right, let's talk about that branding package. Let's talk about that website.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought, is not only, for one, I still see that, me 10 years from now and what I'll be doing. And I would love to be speaking and doing that stuff. So I'm like, okay, well, this is a great opportunity to get a taste of that and how I can start now, as opposed to like, getting built up and then going in on it and kind of testing stuff out. And so having a presentation, I'm going to have like a worksheet or something I can follow along with and like be doing stuff at the same time, like kind of going over some stuff. And then of course I kind of got a whole plan of like, what they can do and have, like I was saying, of the resource hub on my website, of like a place they can go to get maybe a couple free resources, get on my email list and start that.
Awesome.
So I'm kind of trying to put all the pieces in together, but I like the quick wins. I'll definitely incorporate some of those.
Love the resources. Absolutely. Try to make it a way to build your list. So the two things I would recommend for you in each one of these. First off, are you getting pictures done? Is somebody going to be taking a picture of you presenting?
Yes, I've got, my sister will be there to take pictures. I think that's another thing too. I was like, ooh, this is going to look really good for credibility purposes. I'm putting this on my website and all over social media. I'll be hyping it up. You'll probably start seeing those posts, but
I didn't even have to ask why.
I was like, this is definitely a credibility builder. I was like,
because that's content. That's like a month of content right there. And if you talk about something in the presentation, you could just repurpose that for a post. You could be like, this is something I talked about in the workshop last week. Try this out on your website. You're just repurposing one piece of content. So my insight though, my recommendation are the two things. One, a quick win that they can implement that day, ideally. Second, I would ask them if there's any sort of feedback session or Q&A, I would ask them for their top takeaway. And if you frame it like that, what will happen is instead of asking like, so basically like an open-ended question, like, are there any questions or was there anything that you like? If you say like, what was your favorite takeaway? Someone's going to think about the few things that resonated with them and they'll tell you that instead of being like, I did like it, but what I like about it, I don't know. But if you're like, what's a takeaway? What's something that it may be that quick win, but it also might be something else that you didn't even really think about, but really resonated with somebody. And the cool thing about asking about what is your favorite takeaway is you'll get content ideas. For weeks just by real people being like, I love how you talked about with the website or the branding thing. I didn't even think about that. And you're like, wow, I didn't even think that was a big deal, but apparently it's a big deal to people. So quick wins and takeaways. That's what I would try to get from them.
Yeah,
to give a quick win, get a takeaway. There it is.
Yeah, that's one thing too that I was thinking about is incorporating like a feedback form that I can like, hey, what did you like about this? And maybe having it on, because I know the room that I'll be in and there'll be like tables and stuff, and having it maybe on a QR code or on the back of their worksheet thing is they can either scan it or go to my link for it, and they can give me feedback on what else would you like to learn? Do you want to sign up for my newsletter? Do you want to learn those tips and tricks from, sign up for more? And then also that gives me good insight of what people actually want to learn, because we can have this whole idea of what people want to learn, but then what they actually want, like they can be two different things. So I was thinking of having like a feedback form where they can give me feedback. Then that would go on to help me either if I wanted to see if I could teach again there or do a different workshop, but kind of, so that's kind of my thoughts on that.
Yep. You're on it. Yep. Quick win, takeaways, and then feedback form that builds your list. Absolutely. Those things. Yeah. That's it. That's all you need to do. I'm so excited to see how this plays out for you here, Alexia. Speaking of resources, let's wrap this up with a resource that you have for everyone listening, because you've shared this in Pro. You have kind of a launch plan that you put together, which I'm really excited. I may even honestly just include it in my business course and be like, hey, if you want to launch, do what Alexia did. Here's the launch plan. I think you're making that or a version of it available for everyone, right? So where should everyone go to pick that up for free?
Yes, it'll be on my website under resources, and it's just a free download there. And it's called the Ultimate Launch Plan for Designers. And I go into not only just the launching with the social media stuff, but your business setup too, because that's one thing that I wish I would have had is like, okay, well, like how do all these pieces fit together? What do I need to focus on first? So it goes from like your business setup to your pre-launch, getting everything ready for your launch, the pre-launch phase of like giving the teasers out or like setting up your social medias, through the launch phase, and then the post-launch, which is very important as well, is to keep the momentum going with your post-launch stuff. I've got a couple of pro tips in there. One of them is, what I had somebody ask me in Web Designer Pro of like, well, I'm doing this project, but it's a client and we're exchanging services. So how should I go about like sending the invoice and stuff? And I'm like, well, you need to make sure that people know your worth and what you're charging. So even if you do discount the rate, put the full rate up there and put the discount. Either put a slash through it or put discounted this much, so that when people refer to you, because if you do good work for them, they're going to want to send you clients. They need to know how much it's going to cost, so you don't get those low ticket referrals. You don't want to be known as the cheap or low ticket designer. So that's another pro tip that's in there, along with a couple other things, and just showing like how much it just an easy to follow launch plan that can help you out. And of course, tailor it to your own needs. But those are just things that I did, what I wish I would have done, and kind of just helping other designers, because that can be sometimes the hardest part, is the getting it all started and getting it organized.
Oh, hell yeah. This is awesome. visualvibedesign.com/resources. That's where it'll be, right?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. We'll have that link in the show notes. And the last thing, I meant to mention this earlier, which may come into play with your workshop. You did a giveaway, right?
Yes.
What did you give away, an audit or a low ticket offer thing?
So I gave away, which I probably would have just done one or the other, because I was thinking brand and web design. I would have made it so much clearer and concise of just give one service away. But I did a brand strategy giveaway, and then I did a website audit giveaway. And I think there might have been a little bit of confusion on what I was actually giving away. My goal was to have 2 winners and to do one for one and one for the other. And it played out really well. And I'm glad that I got those services. Like I went ahead and did those services. It was all for free. It was not a gimmick of, oh, you got to pay this, because I hate those. I hate those free giveaways that are not actually free. I'm not for that. It was completely free to the clients that won the giveaway. I didn't get as many signups as I thought I was going to get, but that's okay, because the people that I did get and that did win the giveaway, they were amazing, and they wrote great reviews for me too. So that's another thing to think about. If you're lacking on reviews, maybe offer that free thing, and then have them give you a review too, because you did perform a service. It just wasn't necessarily a paid service.
Yeah. And no one needs to know it was a free giveaway when you see a review. Yeah. The reason I asked that is I'm almost wondering, maybe for building your list with those live events, is maybe offer another round of a giveaway. Like maybe on the branding one, you offer a free brand strategy. They would have to, they have to get your resources or submit the feedback, and then they'll be entered into to potentially get that giveaway of a free audit. Same thing with the web design. So that would be one extra thing you could do that would for sure help you build the email list on those.
Yeah, I like that.
Sweet. All right. Awesome. Well, so many great things, Alexia. Thank you so much for sharing the ins and outs here of your launch plan. Again, you've really, really shared the ins and outs in the actual checklist launch plan that you have together. So everyone can go to visualvibedesign.com/resources. That is also available inside of Web Designer Pro. And I think we're probably going to bring you on here. Speaking of workshops, maybe we'll do a virtual one for Pro here in the near future to talk about this and have a little Q&A. And have, a specific web designer launch plan with some of this in mind, maybe go through some of that. So I'm publicly asking you if you're interested in doing a pro training.
100%. Yes. If I can help out anyone, like I love the pro trainings and pro, and if I could be a resource to help people out, like it warms my heart to help people. And I think that's part of the reason why I got into this, is just seeing that the help and how I can help make other people's dreams come true. I think that's kind of my vibe there.
I can't wait to have you up here. I'll follow up with you on that to do a pro training for launching. It's going to be super, super cool, because we'll be able to really dive into this. So, all right. Well, Alexia, thank you for your time. Round 1 will definitely not be the last time. It is publicly, I have to say, it's been an honor to see everything you've done in such a short amount of time. I mean, you were technically on the podcast earlier this year because you sent in some questions that I repurposed, which like we've talked about for the podcast. And it's actually helped a lot of people. Actually, I think if you search how to start a web design business, I think it's pretty far up there.
That's awesome.
Hold on a sec. How to start web design business. I think that video is starting to creep up, and I haven't really done my due diligence with making it optimized. Let's see here. So video wise, I think we're at the top of the second page. Our little video Q&A session, which, because it's formatted as kind of a video interview Q&A, I'm sure that most people are going to be interested in like a 10-minute video kind of thing.
Yeah,
But,
there were
hey,
a lot of comments on that video though too. I noticed that because I was trying to reply, because like I'm like,
yeah.
if somebody needs something or they have a question or something, I'd like and reply.
Yeah, when you start your YouTube video, your YouTube channel, I'll link it on there, and we can drive some followers. So cool. All right, Alexia, thank you so much for your time, and keep it up.
Awesome, thank you. Do you mind if I give a final word to the
viewers? Absolutely, hit us.
So you're sitting there, you're probably listening to this while you're on a walk, doing dishes, doing something. And you have all these ideas in your head and you want to execute them. Execute them and don't shy away from being scared to do something. Do it anyway. Like, even if you're nervous, even if you're scared, you haven't done something before, take that chance and do it nervous, because you're never going to not feel that nervous. Like when I was preparing, I even got my whole monitor and everything set up to be on the podcast today. I was 30 minutes like just waiting here because I was so nervous. This is my first time on the podcast, but I'm doing it because I see this up myself 10 years from now, and I need to start building that resistance and getting rid of that nervousness. So just, even if you need to do it and you feel scared and you don't feel ready yet and you have that imposter syndrome, do it anyway. Just do it. Do it anyway, because you're the person that's getting in your own way and in your own head. Just do it. Like that's the best way that I can say that Nike slogan, just do it. It's so true. Have the fundamentals and have things prepared. Like, don't just do it sloppily, but if you feel that you can do it, get it done. Like, do it nervous. It's better than not doing it at all. Or doing it and not being completely perfect is better than not doing it at all. You'll learn so much just from taking action rather than waiting, and just do it. That's the best way I can describe it.
Mic drop. Listen, your entrepreneurial motivational side of your business and personality is going to outshine your services very soon, I think. So
well, thank you.
Keep on posting that. Keep on spreading the message. All right, Alexia, thanks so much. And are you pumped for round 2?
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
Round of applause, maybe even a slow clap, is deemed worthy by Alexia's launch plan. I'm so proud to be a part of this stage in her journey and to see what she's done, how organized she was. I'm just blown away by how she put this launch plan together. Again, I hope this conversation has shed some light to help you, especially if you are an early stage web designer. Even if you're not, you can use all of these strategies to give yourself a nice marketing revenue boost. So let me know which one is your favorite. Let us know. Alexia will be checking the comments for the show notes of this episode, which can be found at joshhall.co/350. Leave us a comment there. Tell us your favorite takeaway, what's going to help you in your business. And again, if you would like this checklist that she has for you, you can go to her website, visualvibedesign.com/resources. It'll be on the show notes for this episode. And if you want to meet Alexia and you want to see her training that she'll be doing live inside of My Community Web Designer Pro, we're going to really dig into this in more detail and have a Q&A about it. And she's really going to expand even more about how you can launch and get a revenue boost in your business. It's time to join Pro. Come on into Web Designer Pro. That link will be at the show notes as well. Or you can go to webdesignerpro.com where you can join my community, get all my courses, meet people and work with people like Alexia, learn from and learn with folks like Alexia, and get coaching with me directly. That is available for you today at webdesignerpro.com. I can't wait to hear how this one helped, friends. Go to joshhall.co/350. Leave us a comment. Thank you to Alexia for being an open book and being so transparent with everything she did. I can't wait to hear how it helps you as well. Cheers, friends. Make sure you're subscribed because there's a lot of great episodes down the road here. In fact, the next episode is going to be celebrating the 5-year anniversary of this podcast. 5 years. We're just getting started.